Lessons 2.3 and 2.4 combined together are a study of linear functions. Now, I hope you feel pretty confident in working with functions and understanding what they mean, ideas like domain and range, intervals of increasing, decreasing, and so on. But now we're going to talk about and begin our study of different kinds of functions. The first ones that we're going to look at are linear functions. Now I want to take just a minute to talk about the different kinds of linear functions that you might have. You could have a linear function that rises as it goes from left to right. That means it is increasing over its entire domain, which is all real numbers. Lines like this have equations that can be y equals mx plus b, and because they're increasing, the slope is greater than 0, which is another way of saying it's positive. You could also have a line that is decreasing. It does not have to go through the origin, mine did. This one is decreasing over its entire domain. And because it's decreasing, its slope is less than 0. It is a negative slope, and it can be written as y equals mx plus b. The third kind of linear equation, linear function, is a constant. And this means that the slope is 0. And it is written y equals some constant number. If you have a vertical line with an undefined slope, it is not a function. So I'm not going to talk about that anymore right now. We have a toolbox that you will probably find that information in your formula packet. If not, you need to write those ideas down. The formula for the slope, given 2 points on a line. The slope-intercept form, which I have already used, y equals the slope times x plus the y-intercept. Point-slope form we will also use. Horizontal line, vertical line, which may or may not show up, it's not a function. Parallel lines where the two slopes are the same. Perpendicular lines where the two slopes are opposites, and reciprocals. So let's see everything that it might ask you to do in these two lessons. Number 1, find the slope of the line passing through the points given below, or state that the slope is undefined. Then indicate the line through the points rises, falls, is horizontal or vertical. Now, seeing that, I think I will go back and add to this that if you have a line like this, M is undefined, and it is horizontal, and it is the form x equals some number. It's not a function, but it is a line. All right, so now back to our question. All right, finding slope given 2 points, we're going to use the slope formula. And the slope formula, m is equal to, it is always, remember, it's the rise over the run. And the rise is vertical. So it's y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. That can be reversed and is in many books y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And it does not matter. I will probably use this one. In your points, we have 6, 2, and 7, 8. The y's are those elements. The x's are those elements. So the slope is 2 minus 8, difference of the y's on top, 6 minus 7 on bottom, difference of the x's on bottom. That gives me negative 6 over negative 1, which reduces to 6. My math lab wants 6. It is important to remember that really is a ratio of 6 over 1. But if it's negative over negative, always change it to positive. So here, the slope is 6. Because that is a positive number, the line rises from left to right. All right, next question. Similar. Find the slope of the line that passes through 2 points. So I have -5, 2, and I have 3, 2. The way I do the slope, I have the difference of the y's on top, the difference of the x's on bottom. So m is y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. It is 2 minus 2, that's the y's, over -5 minus 3. That's 0 over -8, which is 0. So the slope is 0, and it means that it is horizontal, because any line with a 0 slope is horizontal. All right, number 3, I'm finding the slope of the line through 2 points, -7, 7, and -7, 1. M is equal to y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Y's on top, that's 7 minus 1. X is on bottom, that's -7 minus -7. Now minus minus means plus, so I have 6 on top, 0 on bottom. I cannot divide by 0, so this is undefined. And the slope is undefined, and that means that the line is vertical. All right, now we're going to do a few problems where we're going to be given conditions and asked to write the equation of the line. All right, the slope is -3, so I'll write down my information. The slope is -3, and the point that I'm given, that is the line passes through, is -2, -4. All right, type point slope form of the line. Now, point slope, it's in your toolbar. Well, not toolbar, but up here in the tools at the top. So you could go back. And it is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You actually get to pick, no, I'm sorry, that's what it is. There's your slope. This is x1. This is y1. So we're going to have y minus the y value, which is -4, equals the slope, which is -3, open parentheses, x minus -2. Before I type that in, I'm going to change my minus minus to a plus. So it's y plus 4 equals -3 parentheses x. This changes to plus 2. So I will literally type in y plus 4 equals -3 open parentheses x plus 2. Then it wants it in slope-intercept form, which is very useful form. So this was one answer. Now I'm going to go ahead and simplify the right-hand side. Y plus 4 is equal to distributive property, -3x minus 6, subtract 4, and I get y is equal to -3x minus 10. This is the answer to the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So you're giving the answer in two forms. Luckily, you use point slope to get this information. Why? Because you were given point and slope. All right, let's look at number 5. The instructions are the same. We are given m is equal to -4/9, and the point that it passes through is 8, -3. First, write an equation in point-slope form. Point slope, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So it's y minus -3, and yes, I'll change that in just a minute, equals -4/9, open parentheses, x minus 8. So my first answer is y plus 3 is equal to -4/9, open parentheses, x minus 8. That is an answer that goes right there. Now they want it in slope-intercept form. So let's see if I can continue. So I keep y plus 3 is equal to, I'm going to distribute the fraction, -4/9 x. Now, over here, my work, I have -4/9 times -8. Well, that's -8/1. Negative times negative is positive, 32/9. So plus 32/9. Now I need to subtract 3 from both sides. So a little more work. I have 32/9 minus 3, and that's 3/1. Common denominator is 9. No change in the first one. 1 goes into 9 9 times, and 3 times 9 is 27. So now subtract. 32 minus 27 gives us 5/9. So I have y is equal to -4/9 x. When I did this work over here, I got a positive 5/9. And that answer is slope-intercept form, and it goes right here. All right, the next one for number 6, slightly different. They're still wanting us to do point-slope form and slope-intercept form, but this time we get 2 points that the line goes through. So that's -4/9 and 1, -1. This is going to be a 2-part problem just to get to the first answer. So I need to find m. I've got to have the slope to do anything with the equation of the line. So m is equal to y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. It is the difference in the y's, 9 minus -1 over difference in the x's, -4 minus 1. Minus minus turns to plus, so it's 9 plus 1 over -5, or 10 over -5, which is 2. Actually, -2, because it's positive divided by negative. So now, point slope. And I crossed my L. I'll write that again. So I have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I'm going to go ahead and choose the first point as point 1. So I'm going to have y minus, this is the y value, so it's 9, equals the slope I just calculated, -2, open parentheses, x minus, here it is, -4. That means I have y minus 9 is equal to -2 times x plus 4. That's the first answer, goes right in here in point slope form. My math lab should accept you using this point instead of this point for your y1 and x1, but I went ahead and chose the first one. Now the second answer is to solve it for y and get it in slope-intercept form. So I have y minus 9 is equal to distributive property, negative 2x minus 8. Add 9 to both sides, and I get y is equal to negative 2x plus 1. And that is my second answer in this. All right, number 7. Very similar. I have 2 points. So I have negative 2, 9 and 5, 9. The first thing I have to do is find m. Find the slope. You always have to have the slope before you can proceed with your problem. Slope is y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. So it is 9 minus 9 over negative 2 minus 5. So that's 0 over negative 7, which is 0. Now, I already know this final answer. I know that if this is 0, that I have a horizontal line, and it is y equals the y value, which is 9. So I know my final answer is y equals 9. But I'm going to go ahead and do what the problem says, which is point slope. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So and I'm choosing the first point again. It's y minus 9 is equal to a slope of 0 times x minus negative 2. So y minus 9 is equal to 0 times x plus 2. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that step when it's not all that necessary, but that is the answer for right here because it says point slope. Now, slope-intercept, 0 times anything is 0. So I have y minus 9 is equal to 0, add 9, and y is 9. That is slope-intercept. And it would have been quicker to stop right here and say, oh, well, if the slope is 0, then this is a horizontal line, and a horizontal line is of the form y equals some constant number. Look at the ordered pairs, and the y value is 9. But MathLab did ask for this point slope, so we had to do it. All right. All right, problem number 8. You're given a point of 9, 8, and you're given an x-intercept of negative 6. Now, an x-intercept, although it's interesting, it is not all that helpful when it comes to writing the equation of a line. If you were given the y-intercept, it would be wonderful, but the x-intercept actually is just a point. It is the point negative 6, 0. So I'm going to use the same process I had before. I'm going to first find the slope. So m is equal to y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. So it is the difference in the y's, 8 minus 0, over the difference in the x's, 9 minus negative 6. So it is 8 over 15 because the minus minus became plus. All right, now I'm going to do point slope. And I'm just going to go ahead in point slope, and I guess I'll pick my first point. You should be able to do it either way. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So this is y minus, let's see, look here, the y value is 8. It's equal to 8/15 times x minus the x value of that same point is 9. So I have, oh, let me pause. That is the answer to the point slope form. Now simplify it, solving for y to get to the slope intercept form. So I'm going to distribute. So I have y minus 8 is equal to 8/15 x. And now my work over here, I have 8/15 times 9. So if you want to, you could go to your calculator and do 8 divided by 15 times 9. It's going to give you a decimal. Then you could do math, choose change to fraction, and it's 25/4. So I'll just do that. Minus 25/4. Now add 8 to both sides. You can do it by hand, or I'll grab my calculator. Whoops. I have y is equal to 8/15 x. Go back to your calculator, and I have negative 25 divided by 4 plus 8. And it's 2. I don't need to change anything. Plus 2. And let me double check that. Okay, I typed the wrong thing into my calculator. So it is negative 25/4. Whoops. Just going to clear everything. So I'm typing this part into my calculator. So little negative sign, 25 divided by 4 plus 8, 1.75. All right, I see what I was doing wrong. In way back up here, this is 24/5, and I transposed it as 25/4. So that certainly made a difference. I had a feeling something was going wrong here. So I checked it with arithmetic and saw what I did. So now, so you can see that maybe I shouldn't get to use a calculator. Negative 24 divided by 5 plus 8. All right, math. And I get 16/15. All right, and that's the right answer. And you are more than welcome to do the calculations with your calculator. It's very strong in being able to do that. But if you copy it over wrong, you'll be wrong like I was. All right, let's go on to number 9. Now, when I do this, I'm going to talk about what it's like to do it on my math lab. And I'm going to show how to do it if you want to in the calculator. All right, this one. Give the slope and the y-intercept of the line with the given equation. Then graph the linear equation. All right, looking right here, you have to remember that this is y equals mx plus b. The slope is the coefficient of x. It is 2. The y-intercept is the constant, and it's positive, so it is 6. It does not want it as an ordered pair, it just wants the number 6. Now it says to graph it. You will choose the tool that looks like a line with 2 points on it, and you will start with the y-intercept. This is how I remind people. B, y equals mx plus b, stands for where you begin on the y-axis. M stands for move, which is how you move in a rise over a run from that point. So let me see if I can enlarge this a little bit. My line will not be perfect. I will begin at 6 on the y-axis. It's so important that you remember that you start on the y-axis. You click this point. You can enlarge your graph if you want to. From there, the slope is 2, but when you use it, you have to think of it as 2 over 1, which is rise 2, run 1. So go up 2, go over 1, put another point, and although mine won't be straight, MyMathLab, ooh, that's really bad. MyMathLab will draw you a nice straight line. And then you'll ask it to check. All right, let's look at the next one. Tell you what, I can go over to MyMathLab and do one to demonstrate the graphing process. So I'm going to skip number 10 and go do number 10 that's in MyMathLab. All right, this is different than the one that is on your notes, but that's okay. The one on the notes is actually worked out in the notes, but in this video I'm going to choose this separate problem, which is, and I can't write on here. So I'm not going to write on here. I'm just going to talk about it. It says the equation is y equals negative 4x plus 2. So let me see if I can get my keyboard hooked up. All right, so here the slope is, and there is the slope, so all I have to type in is negative 4. And it's telling me my device, whoa. So I'll check that answer. That was good. Now it wants to know my y-intercept. The y-intercept is right here. So I will say that it is 2. Check my answer. And that's good. So now I want to graph it. So I'll enlarge the graph. Well, maybe I won't. I'll just use this. All right, I want oh my goodness, I don't want that. This is a little bit on the crazy side right now. All right, I was finally able to get it a good size. So this is the tool I was talking about, the line tool. From there, begin at the y-intercept, and that is 2. From there, go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, go right 1, and there's your line. So remember again, you start with the line tool, you click, I'm not using a mouse, I'm using a pen, but I went to 2 on the y-axis and did click. Then I went down, the slope is negative 4, so I think of that as negative 4 over 1. So down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1, tell it to save it because it was large, and ask it to check it, and it says correct. All right, so I'm going to go back to my problem. If I wanted to very quickly do number 10, the slope is negative 2, which I will think of as negative 2 over 1, down 2, right 1, but I don't write that in MyMathLab. The y-intercept is 7. When I graph it, click the line tool, and then begin at 7 on the y-axis, so you'll put a point there. From there, you will go down 2 blocks, go right 1 block, and the line will be drawn. And it kind of makes sense because negative slope means falling line. All right, let me go to the next one. And I'm not going to try to switch back to my math lab because that was kind of chaotic. Let's go to 11. This one says the slope is, and you will type in 4/5, and then you'll notice for yourself that that's positive, so that's rise 4, that's positive, so that's right 5. The y-intercept is -7. To graph it, choose the line tool that looks like that. Then begin at -7 on the y-axis. From there, go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Then go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mine left a little trail and you won't. And then you will get a line drawn. Let's look at number 12. What is the slope? The slope is -3/4. Now you'll find that when it's a negative quantity, I attach it to either the top or the bottom, usually the top. And it tells me to go down 3 and right 4. The y-intercept is 2. Click your line tool, then 2 on the y-axis, go down 3, go right 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's your line. Now let me mention something. If you were graphing and for some reason it was not convenient, say the y-intercept was -9, and then it said to go down 3 from there and you couldn't, I want you to know that although I typically put a negative sign with the numerator, which says down and right, if it is better, you can put the negative sign with the denominator. Then your rise is positive, but your run is to the left. If I had done that, it would have said go up 1, 2, 3, and then go left 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I had a really straight line, this actually would have gone that way. I can't draw a straight line on this. Unfortunately, I can't use a ruler on it because I'm writing on my Surface tablet, so you get really poor lines. But let me reassure you that either way, you're going to get a second point on the line. Now something that should be very quick. It says y equals 6. This is one of the special lines. It cuts through the y-axis at 6. So it's going to cut through the y-axis at 6. So you can either pick a point over here for your second point or pick a point over here for your second point. It doesn't matter. You only need 2 points, but this is a horizontal line, obviously not a straight one, but a horizontal line that cuts through the y-axis at 6. Number 14 says to graph x equals -6. This line cuts through the x-axis at -6. So on the x-axis you would go to -6. Now if you're going to cut through the axis, you either pick any arbitrary point above that or below that so that you get the vertical line. Number 15. Graph the linear equation y equals 9. Hopefully you will always remember that it cuts through the y-axis at 9. So y-axis at 9 cuts through means you have to have another point along that horizontal line, And there you go. All right. You are not always given an equation in a nice slope-intercept form, which identifies M and B for you. So sometimes you have to change it. So if I have, on number 16, I have 4x plus y plus 3 equals 0. And if I'm going to write it in slope-intercept form, then the y needs to stay by itself and be positive. I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides, and in the same step I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and I end up with y is equal to negative 4x minus 3. At this stage you may have actually said, I'll just move it over here. I'll move it over here and it will become its opposite. So I have y is equal to negative 4x minus 3. The slope of the line is negative 4. The y-intercept is negative 3, and then it wants it graphed. Okay, so remember, you decided b was negative 3. That's where you begin on the y-axis. The slope is negative 4. I'm going to write that as negative 4 over 1. That tells me to go down 4 and write 1. So I begin at negative 3. From there I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, write 1. And although I can't get a straight line, you would get a straight line through those 2 points. All right, let's do some more of this. Once again, you might be given the equation of a line in some form other than slope-intercept. So if I have 4x plus 5y minus 20 equals 0, and I needed to solve for y, I would first get those 2 terms that I don't want there to the other side. So I subtracted 4x from both sides. I, added 20. I hope you caught that before I did. And you're left with 5y is equal to negative 4x plus 20. This problem, you're not finished because the coefficient of y is 5, so you have to divide everything by 5. And you end up with y is equal to negative 4/5 x plus 4. It will ask for M and B in the questions. The B value is 4. The slope, I'm going to put the negative with the top because that's what I like to do. That will tell me to go down 4 and write 5. So I'll put the slope-intercept form, y equals negative 4/5 x plus 4 right here. The slope, negative 4/5. The y-intercept, 4. Graph the line. Begin at 4 on the y-axis. From there, go down 4 and write 5, and you will get to this point, and then that's so bad I can't even leave it. I'm going to try something like that. Your lines will be perfect in my math lab. All right, we have one more. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but no, we don't have one more. We have about 3 more. It says use the given conditions to write the equation of the line in point-slope form and slope-intercept form. Okay, what are they telling me about the line? They have to give me the conditions. We have a point of -9, -7. Then we are told that our line is parallel to y equals negative 3x plus 1. Now I'm not sure if you have really recognized that I keep saying when you're going to get the equation of a line, you've got to have the slope. You've got to have m. Either they give it to you or you have to find it. So they have not given it to me. I have to find it. All I know is that I have a line parallel to my line. Now if I went up to the very top of this screen for you, rewind to the very beginning of the video, you would see a statement about parallel lines M1 equals M2. In other words, they have the same slope. So when they tell me my line is parallel to this one, this line's slope is -3. So that tells me that my slope is -3. Why? The lines are parallel, same slope. So now I will use point slope, which I've used several times in this lesson, and I have y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Here's my x1, y1. So it is y minus -7 equals, the slope is -3, open parentheses, x minus -9. I have y plus 7 is equal to -3 parentheses x plus 9. You want to stop there. That is one of your answers. That is your first answer. Now simplify it, solve it for y. So I have y plus 7 is equal to distributive property -3x minus 27. Subtract 7, subtract 7, and you get y is equal to -3x minus 34. And that is your slope-intercept form. So once again, we've done this several times before we took a break and did some graphing. We find our equation in point-slope form, then we simplify it and solve it for y and find it in y equals mx plus b, which is slope-intercept form. This problem was new because it's referred to parallel lines. Let's look at number 19. Use the conditions to write the equation of the line in point-slope form and slope-intercept form. Passes through, okay, they're giving me a point, 7, -8. And it is perpendicular, and I'm just going to abbreviate that, to y equals 1/3 x plus 2. Now hopefully you can tell that the slope of this line is 1/3. Up at the very beginning, we have that perpendicular lines. It says m1 equals -1/m2. What that means is that they are opposite in sign and they are reciprocals to each other. So if this slope is 1/3, my slope is opposite in sign, so it's negative. Flip this over and it's 3/1, which we write as just 3. So because they are perpendicular, the slopes are opposite and reciprocal. Opposite, so it's negative. Flip over, 1/3 becomes 3/1, but we don't write over 1. So now, point slope, because you just can't do anything till you know the slope, but now we have it. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y minus -8 is equal to -3, which is the slope, x minus 7. And I got my -8 and my 7 from right up here. Minus minus means plus, so y plus 8 is equal to -3 parentheses x minus 7. And that is point slope form. Simplify and solve for y. So y plus 8 is equal to distributive property -3x plus 21. subtract 8 from both sides. We get y is equal to negative 3x plus 13. And that is slope-intercept form. So here's my first equation form, and here's my second equation form. All right, I believe we have one more. This is just to tie a different concept to the idea of slope. Slope describes rise over run. It also could be described to say it is vertical change between 2 points compared to the horizontal change between 2 points. The average rate of change is the slope. So slope can be called the average rate of change. All right, this is written in function notation. Now, if I want to find the slope, I'm eventually going to need y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Now, we're going to see a shortcut in just a minute, but I want to give this to you in a formal way first. This is function notation. Remember that y is the same thing as f of x. So in this notation, you see f of x1 minus f of x2. That's the y that goes with x1, that's the y that goes with x2 over x1 minus x2. So off to the side, I'm going to come back to that. F of x1 is f of 0. Where did I get that? Right here. So that means it is 4 times 0, because remember, in this problem, f of x is 4 times x. So it's 4 times 0, which is 0. F of x2 is f of 6, which is 4 times 6, which is 24. Now I could finish this formula for slope and say f of x1 is 0, that's the first y value, minus the second y value, which is 24, over the first x value, oh, it's 0, minus the second x value, which is 6. This is negative 24 over negative 6, which is 4. Now, I did a lot of work on this problem. To find slope, you need 2 points. We have the first x is 0. We calculated its y, which was also 0. We have the second x, which is 6. We calculated its y, which is 24. We then simply use the slope formula to get a 4. Now I want you to go back and see how we could have done this in an instant instead. We have, and we could only do this because it's a line. If we were in quadratics, we could not do this a shortcut way. We would have to do it this way. So we have f of x is 4x. Well, that's really y equals 4x. And if we talked about it as y equals mx plus b, the slope is 4, and that is the rate of change. So we could have answered 4 immediately, but I wanted to take you through and teach you a little bit more about rate of change. If you're going to go on into higher math, the average rate of change is the slope, and you have to literally take your x's, find your y's, use the formula. Okay, hope that was a pretty good lesson on linear functions.